Thank you. And thank you to the organizers for inviting me to participate. I'd like to begin by placing this discussion in a little bit of a context, and so some selective references. This is not the first time people have been discussing observational studies. And there's some citations to Cochrane, but I'd like to actually, again, come back to Jerry Kornfield, whose name's been mentioned several times. Kornfield, through the 50s, was at the forefront of trying to establish the causation or the causal association between smoking and lung cancer. And this was a decade-long process. And there are two particular papers I'd like to refer you to. One is called Principles of Research, which appeared in actually a subject matter journal, but it's just been reprinted in Statistics and Medicine. And the other one was the second paper there. And so let me just tell you a little bit about both of these. So the Principles of Research was a defense of evidence generated from observational studies. And really, I highly recommend it. Every issue that we're talking about here that continues to be talked about, he addressed. And this was in the context of his experience with smoking and lung cancer. In the second paper, this was a joint effort. This informed the Surgeon General's report. This was a paper which looked at every alternative explanation for smoking and lung cancer and looked at studies to try and show that it could not be a causal mechanism, could not be an alternative explanation. I'm sorry, so the other one. It's always the other one, right?
Except when it isn't.
When it isn't, right? Oh, there we go. So one of the statements in the Principles of Research paper that towards the end that I'd like to share with you is Jerry was discussing evaluation of evidence, weighing of evidence. My time's up already. And he was comparing RCTs versus observational studies. And he said an important difference in degree, he acknowledges an important difference in degree between the possibility of spurious effects of RCTs and observational studies. But then he goes on to say that there's no difference in kind. And what he means by that is the kind of reasoning required to either accept or reject evidence from different types of studies is not different. And he goes on to say, if important alternative hypotheses are compatible with all available evidence, then the question is unsettled, even if the evidence is experimental. But if only one hypothesis can explain all the evidence, then the question is settled, even if the evidence is observational. So what's new? Well, clearly tactics are new. We've heard from Patrick, and he's given us a slight, a taste of the ability to use large amounts of data. We know that large amounts of data are being collected, and very creatively showed us how we can begin to use those data to investigate methods and sort of understand the behavior of methods. There are new methods or existing methods from when we know that there are confounders, what the confounders are for adjustment, regression methods for risk adjustment models, propensity score, propensity-based matching. And when they're unmeasured confounders, we are seeing the use of instrumental variables, which Dylan really nicely presented. Some questions to the speakers, perhaps for discussion later. Clearly, as Dylan points out, the choice of the instrument is challenging, how we find these instruments. But in particular, given this discussion, I wonder about the value of instrumental variable approach for patient-centered outcome research. Instrumental variables, we look at the marginal effect or the average effect, but we're really interested in what's going to work for a patient. I'm not sure about the role in that context. I'm curious, for Patrick, the empirical null distribution was positively biased, and I'd be really curious to know why that is. It's really very interesting. So we've got some new tactics, we got some new approaches, but some things haven't changed, and that's the strategy. And this, again, was laid out, I think, nicely by Bradford Hill and Kornfield. in any of these investigations, we need to be very thoughtful about the objectives. We need to include careful specification of the target population of interest. Don Rubin has talked about the design of observational studies and how to do that. Choices of measurement to avoid bias, to really understand the implications of decisions we make in our analysis. And I would argue and sort of pre-shadow the next session, the importance of using information from multiple data sources to investigate and eliminate alternative hypotheses. Thanks.